I'm going to give you a quick little rundown of iMovie in case you're not familiar with it. The way that it works has changed it a little bit over time. It's still pretty simple though, and a lot of people can figure it out kind of just by playing with it. However, that doesn't mean that there aren't a few things you won't find, or there might be a few things that you might be unsure about. So watching a little video might be beneficial. So I'm just going to launch it. This is the icon for it, and it'll take a moment. If you have pre-existing projects, it might start in that project. It also might start here where you just have projects in general. If I want a new project, I can go up here and click the plus button, and I can choose one of these. I would recommend choosing movie. The trailers are cutesy, but they're also cheesy, and once you've seen one, it gets old pretty fast. So just a basic movie. The themes are kind of the same way. They're kind of neat and kind of cute, and I suppose one or two of them could be useful, but for the most part, they're fairly cheesy. So no theme is typically a great choice. I'm going to call mine Lizard because I'm going to be showing examples with videos from recording little lizards outside. So here's what we have so far. Well, we've got nothing so far, but this is what the environment looks like currently. I'm going to be pulling from here. So here's some content that I recorded with my camera. I have these movie files, and then I have a lot of CR2 files, which is a raw format from Canon. It's not going to probably like these images, but if I wanted to use an image, typically you can just drag it in. Oh, it actually took it. Did it work? No, it didn't like that. Oh, there it goes. So it might also depend on which codecs you have installed as to whether or not it will let you drag in a raw format image. If you want to bring in video files, you can also just drag them in. On some of the older versions, you couldn't, you had to import. Now, if you do want to import the video to have like a collection of all your videos here, to then be able to pull down bit by bit, you can do that. If we click this top arrow up here, we can import. We can see the different locations on the computer. So if I go to my hard drive, I go to my Lizard folder, and I scroll way down to wherever those files are, I can also actually just sort with these two, which could be useful. So there we go. Here are those video files that I was showing you just a moment ago. And I can click on all of them, and I can tell it to import. So this is sort of the little media library of stuff that I've imported that I can then pull down here. When I click on a video, you'll get this little plus button, right? So clicking on that will add that whole video to your timeline. If you only want part of a video, you can actually click and hold down and drag across however much of the video you want. A lot of times at the start of a video, you might have a little bit of camera shake from pressing down the button. You also might have a little bit of camera shake at the end when you tell it to stop. You typically also want to record a little bit before you actually want to begin and stop a little bit after you actually want to stop. So that way you can trim it down so hopefully you don't miss any parts that you want. So you can grab the edges. It's a little tricky when you're on the end over here, but you can do it. There it goes. And then you can drag down just the part that you want. This little orange line underneath there shows you how much of it you've grabbed. So if you're not sure if you've used a track or not, just look and see if there's a little orange part. You can grab multiple chunks from different videos and drag them in. You could also drag some of these photos and mix and match different parts if you want. Now I just drug this right on top of this video, and so it is on top. You're still going to have the sound carrying through from here. If I drag this in between, of course, there's no sound on this picture because pictures don't have sound data. You can play with some transitions here if you want, but I don't typically recommend it. Maybe a cross dissolve or a fade, but that's about it. Most of the rest of these are pretty cheesy and you should typically avoid them. You have some audio files that you can use that come with the program. All of these you already have permission and rights to use. You can import other things from like your iTunes library or GarageBand, but keep in mind that you don't necessarily have permission to use them. If you've bought a song on iTunes, that gives you permission to listen to it, not to use it. You can also add in some of these sorts of backgrounds and stuff for titles or just in between maybe a shot, or maybe if I want to show like where I'm filming. But some of these can be a bit cheesy too, so keep that in mind when you're working with some of that. Titles are just about the only way to put text on your actual video in iMovie. You are limited in where you can put text. If you want full flexibility in where you put your text, you're going to have to use a more professional editor. So any of these I can drag on to my project and write what I want, more or less. And up top here, I have choices of fonts. These fonts are based on what you have installed on your computer, but it's only showing you a specific subset of them. You can always go in and add more by doing show fonts. You can also play with size, alignments, a few other options here and there, color. So yeah. Now, you can highlight different parts of it if you want to have different colors within the same thing. I don't know why you'd want to do that, but you can if you really want to. If you want to extend how long it shows up, just grab the corner and pull it around. That's more or less the majority of what you need to know to start creating some simple videos. If you want to add in maybe a voiceover, you can do that too by clicking this little microphone button here. You'll get a little button here that lets you record. And you've got a few options there too. If you want to record in some other software, or if you already have a recording with sound, you can just drag that in the same way that I drug in the video. So like if I go to my documents folder, I have a sample here. If I drag that in, here's an audio track here, and I can decide where I want it to go. Now if I delete this video here, even though the audio still goes across, it will be deleted because this audio is attached right there on this video clip. Same thing with this text. Even if this text were to go here, it will be deleted when I delete this clip because it was attached to it. If I move it over, and if I move this over, now when I delete this, they still remain because of where they're attached. So just keep that in mind. You do have effects up here that you can use. Most of them are fairly cheesy, and I don't typically recommend it. You do have some stabilization here that can help reduce some shakiness of your camera if you were using handheld instead of a tripod, but it only works so well, and it can be time-consuming. I've also had it just sort of get stuck before and not be able to stabilize video content. That might depend also on the quality of the footage you're using. I shot at a pretty high resolution on a Canon camera. If you're using something smaller or maybe editing footage from phone or something, you might have a little bit more luck because of just the smaller file sizes. When you're done and you want to actually export your video, this little button up here lets you export different ways. I don't recommend uploading directly into a web service because if your connection times out or the server goes down or you lose the internet, you could have problems. I recommend using it as just a file on your computer, and then once that's finished processing, then uploading from there.